This is part 3 of Introduction to 3D Studio Max, building a death scene. And we are now going to model a 27-inch iMac. So let's go ahead and get started. Select everything in the viewport, right click, hide selection. I'm going to go Alt-W to go to the quad view. And I'm going to select box. And in my front viewport, I'm going to click and drag a box. I'm going to go to my modify panel so we can adjust the settings. To begin with, let's go to online. Okay, so let's see here. I had the dimensions somewhere. All right, so they're 25.6 width and 17.6 height. So I think this is the height. So 17.6 inches high. Let me zoom out here. And let's see, 17.6 and then 25.6 is the width, inches. And the depth is 5 millimeters. So I'm going to type in 5 mm and it will do the inches for me. There we go. So this is the start point. I'm going to go to my move tool and set my XYZ to 0, 0, 0. Okay. I'm going to call this iMac. And is there anything else I want to change? Nope. So let's go ahead and add the edit poly modifier. Edit poly. I'm going to go to edge mode. And I'm going to select, let me zoom in, I'm going to Alt-W this viewport, select this edge, and I'm going to say ring, so it goes all the way around. I am going to make sure that my edge faces is on. Sometimes this is off. It probably was off when you activated it or opened this file. So I'm going to turn on edge faces so I can see them. And I've ringed all the way around the object, just the corner pieces. I'm going to say chamfer. I'm going to say a chamfer of, let's say, 0.7. Of course, you can set it to whatever value you want. You don't have to use mine. I'm just eyeballing it based off of this right here. So let's say 0.7 and increase the amount of segments. I'm going to go to 12. Yeah, that looks good. Check mark. So all four corners are now round. I'm going to go to the polygon mode, swing to the back. Right here it tells me where I'm at. So this is the back. Select it, and I'm going to go to my selection tool so I don't accidentally move things when I'm selecting them. I'm going to go extrude, and I'm actually just going to hit the check mark, Alt-W, go to my top view here, go to my move tool, and move it straight back. Probably something like that. It's very thin. And let's scale this down. So I'm going to roll over the center here, scale down. Probably to about there. And that's still not quite enough out, so let me bring it back just a little bit more. That's probably good. Okay. And let's go ahead and fix the corners here, because if I render this right now, it's going to, oops, that's my material library. Render. I'm going to get these very sharp corners, and it's definitely not what I want. So let me go to vertex mode, select these vertices, and use scale. And I'm going to undo that, Control Z. I'm going to turn on percentage snap scale. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to percent of the snap, I'm going to say 20, just so it's faster. Close this and scale it up. I think 440 should be good. There we go. Yeah. So 440. And I'm watching down at the bottom of the screen down here when I'm scaling it. So again, just keep your eyes down here when you're scaling. That's how I know I'm getting up to 440. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go back to polygon mode. I am actually going to expand my selection. Whoops. Right here where it says grow. So I have all the back polygons selected. Scroll all the way down, and I'm going to clear the polygon smoothing groups. I'm going to set it to 2. Actually, I'm going to set it to 1. Turn off 2. Okay. In fact, I'll clear all, set it to 1. Now I'm going to go to the edge here, select a polygon, hold down Shift, select another polygon so it loop selects. And I'm going to set this one to, let's say 2. Okay. And then the front face I'll set to 1. It already is 1. So 1, 2, and 1. We're good. Now if I render this, it looks a lot smoother and cleaner. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the little lip that the stand kicks into. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to go, let's scroll up to inset and bring up the inset value. It's too much. Hit the check mark and scale down the rest. Let's flatten it by scaling it on the Z-axis. I'm going to turn off the snapping for scale. That's probably good. And then I'm going to go to my move tool and push it back about there because it's nice and smooth. And I'll expand the selection again. Scroll down and make sure my smoothing groups are still set to 1. Yeah, nice and clean. Okay, so let's go ahead and extrude this in, select it, come up to extrude, and the other direction, it's too much. Let's say 0.4. That's good. Check mark. Okay. Is there anything else we want to do with that? No, we should be good. Let's create the front piece and mirror. So if we go back to the reference image, this metal piece down here and the glass that's going to sit on top of it. So let's go ahead and select this front polygon here. And what we're going to do, actually no, we're going to go to edge mode. Edge, I'm going to make sure I'm on selection mode. And let me select an edge and go ring. So it rings through the object. Now it's stopping here, so let me click these edges and hit ring. There we go. So now I'm ringed all the way through. Okay, let's go connect. Just one connection, hit the check mark. And what I'm going to do is go to edge. And I'm going to control click the side edges. I'm not going to worry about the back. I'm going to drag it down. So let's say somewhere about there for now. Now I need to create a reference piece to figure out how far this really does need to go down. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to come out of edit poly mode. I'm going to go to create panel and I'm going to click plane. And in my front viewport, I'm going to draw a plane. I'm going to go to my move tool, set the XYZ to 0 and 0. Go to my modify panel. I'm going to set the length and the width settings to 1 and 1. And now this setting, I found this online, is 13.25 by 2350. So let me just copy this. This will be the length. And the second one is 2550 or 2350 inches. Okay. So I know the left and right is even, but I need to bring it up. In fact, I have G, by the way, to activate the grid, just in case yours wasn't on in the front viewport. And let me drag it up to where it's even. Let me go Alt W so I can maximize this. So I'm looking for an even distribution from side to top. Probably something about there. Now I can go back to this guy. In fact, let me label this screen. Excuse me. Screen. And let's go back to selecting the actual iMac. Turn on edge mode. So it should already be still selected. Alt W. Let me drag it down. Looks like that is about even. Maybe a little bit more up. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off edge mode for now. All right, so let's create, if we go to the glass, it just sits barely into this, so a little less than half. So let me go to this edge. Let me Alt W this. Click this edge. edge mode again. I'm going to say ring, so it goes all the way around. And I'm going to go to connect. I'm going to slide the connection over. Probably to about there. So 34 looks good. Let's go 30. Yeah, check mark. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Polygon, select this front polygon right here, and say grow. Okay, so it grew top area. Now I don't want the bottom area. So let me hold down Alt and drag select over the bottom area. Make sure I have none of it selected. And we're going to go ahead and detach it right here. Detach. Okay, so I'm going to turn off polygon mode. This is going to be glass, iMac glass. Yeah, okay, so iMac glass, I'm going to go ahead and right click and isolate selection. That's actually close this big hole in the back. So I'm going to go to polygon or edge mode, and I'm going to start with this edge down here. Select it, go to this edge way over here, hold down Control and click it, and I'm going to click the word bridge. And what that did is it bridged the two edges together to create a polygon. Now I'm going to go to border to select the whole, and I'm just going to say cap. Now it's one solid piece. Voila. So I'm done with this one. I'm going to go ahead and right click and say end isolation. And since I'm done with the glass, let me go ahead and hide it for now. Right click, hide selection. And I'm going to come in here and do the same thing. So I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge. Oops. This one right here. And hold down Control. Select this edge. So there's two edges and go bridge. Okay. And now what I want to do is go to border. Select the border, the whole area. And I'm going to hold down Shift while scaling. So scale tool, I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to scale it down. And what this did is it created extra polygons without having to extrude or anything. So it's kind of like an extrusion, only using Shift as a copy, or I should say create new, and scaling it down creates the polygon. So I'm going to move it down just a bit. And what I'm going to do is go to vertex mode. I'm going to select these vertices here, and I'm going to come to collapse. Okay. And I'm going to select these vertices in this corner and say collapse. So it brings those two vertices down to 1. Now I'm going to actually, let me pull this back a little bit and pull this one back a little bit. I'm going to attach this polygon here, which is going to be the monitor or the screen. So I'm going to go down to attach and I'm going to click on the monitor and voila, now there's one object. Turn off attach, go to vertex mode. Now I'm going to click on this vertice and you can scroll all the way down to, oh, actually it's right here, target weld. Or you can actually right click and say target weld. And you're going to click on the first vertice and click on the second one, and it welds the first one to the second vertice. Just like that. So now we know that this is exactly the size the monitor needs to be. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to select polygon. I'm going to select the whole thing for right now. And scroll all the way down. In fact, actually what I'm going to do is open this up so I don't have to keep scrolling up and down. That's just becoming such a pain in the butt. So with this opened, let me go to, let me minimize this. I don't need that open. I'm going to go to material IDs. Now we're not going to use this probably in this tutorial in the sense that we're going to actually apply material. That'll probably be in a following tutorial just because I think it's going to take a little bit of time to model this whole thing out. So anyway, I do want to preempt my ability to materialize different sections of this object. So we're going to apply multiple materials to this object, in other words. And one way to do it is to set IDs to different faces. So right now I'm just going to say set ID 1. So everything selected has an ID of 1. Now if I go to here, you can see that this section here, which is black, which is what the glass is sitting on, is black. So I'm going to come here and control select all this. I'm going to turn on ignore back facing. Where is it? Oops, not soft selection. Ignore back facing right here. And I'm going to drag select over this section by holding down. Let me go to select tool, hold down control. I want to make sure I'm not grabbing the back ones. Okay, there we go. And we are going to apply an ID of 2. So we have 2 IDs, and the last one is this one right here. We'll give it an ID of 3. Okay. So basically this allows me to apply a multi-sub-object material that has different materials on it to one object. So anyway, I wanted to address that now as we're working. Okay, so that's done. We have the front. We're going to model the eye, the actual logo in a little bit. Let's work on the back. Okay, so on the back we have these little ports right here. Okay, let me close this. I don't need it so big. So it looks like some USB ports and so on and so forth. So I'm going to move this off to the side. Come back to here and scale this in to where I can see it. Okay, so let's start by creating, I'm going to go Alt-W, a box in my front viewport. And it looks like it's going to be in this lower corner. Nope. It's going to be in this lower corner because it's on this side. Is it? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let me zoom in here. First things first, I'm going to go to the Modify panel. I'm going to set this to 0.5, probably 0.2. That's the width and the height, and then the actual depth, I'm going to bring it up a lot. That's good right there. Okay, so I need the depth to stick out the mesh, because what we're going to do is we're going to use these boxes to cut holes in this geometry, basically like a cookie cutter. So we don't have to try to go through and model out each individual box in this geometry. That would be such a pain in the butt. So let's go ahead, and that looks good for position. Something about there, maybe up a little bit more and back. Probably something like that. That looks, oops, that looks good. Okay, so we know there's 4 USB ports. There's 8 boxes total, so I'm going to hold down Shift and just drag it over. In fact, let me cancel that. Let me go to this viewport and do it. Hold down Shift, drag it over to about there. 8, there we go. Actually 7, because the first one counts as 8. So let's go copy, box, click OK. All right, so now we have all our boxes in place. Let's start modifying them. So the first 4 are going to be fine. The next one over is going to be, why is this so small? I thought I found a bigger one. There it is. Okay, the next one is going to be more square, but smaller. So let's decrease the height to, let's say, 4. And let's increase the width to 3. All right, next one over from that is going to be, actually, whoops, I clicked on the wrong one because there's 4 USBs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one. So let's say 4, 3. Oops, that's supposed to be 4. There we go. Now I'm going to delete this one right here because it's a copy of the one I'm about to work on. So let's click on this and change its settings to, it's a little bit smaller. So let's say this one's 3 and 1. Not quite. Let's go 1.5. There we go. Let's modify this one. So I'm just going to right click and go editable poly. And let's select edge mode. Grab this edge here, this edge, chamfer. Set the value to 0, dial it up a little bit. Maybe add 1 extra edge and check mark. There we go. So I'm going to turn off the edge mode and hold down Shift, drag it over to about there. Click OK. Last but not least, this box here is the internet connection. So this one's going to probably be 3.5 Oops, not 3.5, 3.5 by 4. Let me scoot it over just a bit. Okay, so those are our plugs. Nothing spectacular. Let me drag this one back over just a little more. And then I need the 2 audio jacks. So I'm going to go to the Create panel, Cylinder, click and drag. Oops, guess I need to make it big enough. Modify panel. And let's shoot it the other direction. Whoops. Size, I can leave it 18. Height segments I'll set to 1. And increase the height. Decrease the radius to about, let's go 0.7. That's probably good enough. Okay. A little bit closer. And it's actually on this side. Next to the USB ports. Hold down Shift, make a copy. All right, so those are our 2 USB or audio jacks. Let's see here. So we got one more to cut into this geometry back here. So that's the power port. I'm going to hold down Shift, drag this guy over, bring it up to, let's say, probably around here. And it's going to be a copy. Click OK. Let's increase the radius. Go probably 0.6 will be good. Yep. So I'm creating the little power port. And the height's big enough. Let me move it in a little bit, actually. Or back. I'm trying to keep these things off the 0 line. In fact, let me grab these. Pull them forward a little bit. Okay. I'm going to set this guy's x-axis to 0. That looks about right. Maybe up a little bit more. Okay. All right, let's see here. Those are the back pieces. So let's actually model out the Apple symbol. So let's go to Apple logo. Okay, and so this is the logo. Let's actually get an image of it so we can import that into 3D Studio Max. This will be fine. So I'm going to right click, save image as, and I'm going to save it to my work 2, trap CG. Let's see, tutorials, 3D desk, 3D texture. Call this Apple logo. Get rid of the space. There we go. Save. Okay, so let me go ahead and minimize this for now. Maximize my 3D Studio Max. Let's pull this back open. Let's save this. And let's create, let me go to my images folder. See, tutorials, 3D reference. Oops, did I put this? I think I probably put it in the texture folder. That's right. Okay. So here's my logo. I'm going to import it onto a plane, but we need to know the dimensions. So this thing is 203 by 249 pixels. So I'm going to go to a Create panel. Let's create a, not a box, let's do a plane. All right, so oops, don't need that. 203 by 249. 249 is the height. 249 px. And I don't even think that's set right. Try that again. It's not going to convert pixels. Oh, that's a shame. So I'm just going to eyeball it. So here's my plane. I'm going to go to the, let's go to the material editor and click on a new material. That's actually the shortcut way of getting this image into 3D Studio Max is to go to the image and drag and drop it onto a material. And then it automatically puts it in the diffuse slot, drag and drop this material to here. Now, I'm going to apply a UVW map. And let's see here, bitmap fit. I'm going to click bitmap fit, find the bitmap, click open. And so that forces the image to fit to its normal scale, so I don't have to try to match the geometry up to it. So there we go. We're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. If you don't see your material in the viewport, remember you've got to check this box right here. So I'm using this just as a reference. So let me go to the modify panel. And in my front viewport, I'm going to switch this to shaded. Now, instead of working with these shapes, we're going to use something called splines this time. So I'm going to, or shapes actually, instead of working with the standard primitives, we're going to go into shapes. And we're going to use this line tool right here. Okay. So in my front viewport, I'm going to click and draw my shape. Now, don't worry about being perfect because we can adjust it later. Close spline, yes. Now I'm going to go to my modify panel, open up, go to vertex mode. You can see here I can play with the handles. So if I hold down shift, I can play with each handle individually. Just like that. Okay. So that's that piece. Now what I'm going to do is to, because right now it's just lines. This doesn't really help me. But what I can do is, let me turn off vertex mode, go to extrude. Right here. And it's going to turn that into geometry that I can actually, let me hit Z on the keyboard to zoom extents, scale it up. So let me go 0.3. Oops, not 3.0, 0.3. Voila. So that's one piece. Let's go ahead and do the apple now. So go back to the create panel, create a line, and I'll start with this point here. Draw, let's say to here. And like I said, I will fix issues later. Let me just get the basics down. Okay, so now I can go to the modify panel, go to vertex mode, and play with the edges to get it to work. Okay. And of course I can spend a lot more time trying to make it perfect, but I don't have that for this tutorial. So anyway, now that I've got some the lines in, let me actually smooth this out a little bit. You can see it's pretty jaded. To do so, I can actually come over to interpolation and I can increase this and you can see it smooths it out, or I can say adaptive, either or, they both work. Okay, so let's go ahead and add, I'm going to turn off vertex mode, select on the original. I'm going to copy, right click, copy, and I'm going to paste it on this spline. Right click, paste. There we go. So both of them are extruded. I can select this plane and I can delete it now. Don't need it. So voila, there's my Apple logo. Select both pieces, bring them in. Okay, so now we need to scale them down. And once I get them to, let's see, is it as smooth as I want them to be? Let's increase their smoothness just a little bit more. Go back to line. Okay, so I'm going to collapse these to editable geometry. So I'm going to right click, collapse all, say yes. Do the same thing to here, right click, collapse all, yes. So now it's editable mesh. I need to convert it to an editable poly. on both of them. And let me select this one and go to attach. Why did this jump over here? Yeah. Where's the attach button? Attach, click here. All right, so now it's all one object. I'm going to go to Polygon, select everything, and scale this guy down. Oops. Scale it down as an element. Nope, that's not going to work either. Let me try vertex. There we go. I just don't want them scaling independently like they were. So I have to choose the which mode I'm going to scale it by. And let's go back to a reference image. Let me pull this back open. So here, right here. Okay. So let me scale it down just a little bit more. Turn off vertex mode and move it up. It's probably a little too high. Let's move it down and move it back to where it barely sticks out. In fact, actually, what we're going to do is cut this into this geometry, so we'll make it stick out a little bit more. Now, is that small enough? Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so let me go ahead and copy this. I'm going to move it forward. Hold down Shift and move it forward so I have a copy. Click OK. Here's my original. That's good. I'm going to do the same thing with the boxes back here. Hold down, and this guy. Hold down Shift, drag it forward. Click OK. And these guys, I don't need copies of. So copies I'm going to make because I'm going to put things in those holes. All right, so let's cut these geometry pieces out. All right, so let's go to this. Let's just start with anything. In fact, actually, let's start with the Apple logo. Okay, I'm going to go into attach mode. And I'm going to start attaching everything that I'm going to cut. So this guy. All this is going to become one object. Now make sure you don't select anything else but the elements that you're going to cut. That looks good. Okay, I'm going to go to Polygon mode real quick. I don't like the fact, actually let's go to vertex mode. I don't think these vertices are far enough back. There. Just to be on the safe side. Okay, so now that we have all these things that we're going to cut with, we're going to go back to our object. And we're going to go to the Create panel. And we're going to go to the Standard Primitives. I'm going to change this to Compound Objects. And we're going to use you can use either Boolean or Pro Boolean. In this case, because these pieces are there's a lot and there's really small ones, it'd probably be best if I used Pro Boolean. So I'm going to click on Pro Boolean. And right now my first object is object A. And my second object is going to be object B. So I'm going to say Start Picking. Click. And you can see here I've got set to subtraction. So I'm saying object 0, which was my first one, is going to subtract object 1, which was my second one. And it did a really good job of cutting the holes into my geometry. Now, I just remembered that there's a logo up here, so it's probably best that I do the same thing. So I'm going to undo that, undo, so I don't have it applied. Let me grab this guy, hold down Shift, make a copy. Click OK. Drag it way up here. And this guy wasn't centered. Ooh, I'm so glad I didn't. Ooh. I'm going to have to move this guy via his... Grab these. Okay. So I'm going to have to move it over to be centered. I think that looks centered. And grab this guy, put it in the same spot. Okay. Let's take this guy's X position, Control C, and paste it to this guy, Control V. And let's move him back. and rotate him 180 degrees. I'm going to Control Z that, turn on rotate snap. There we go, 180. Position, rotate, turn off rotate snap. There we go. And position it. Okay. Move it over just a bit. All right, so there's my two logos. I think the one on back is fairly large. It's probably bigger. So let me go ahead and increase its size. Go to polygon mode. Actually, no, vertex mode. Definitely vertex mode and scale it up. Okay. It's looking good. I'm going to hold down Shift, drag it forward to make a copy. Click OK. So now, let me go back to these pieces and attach. There we go. Okay, so these are all turn off, attach. All the things we're going to cut in the geometry. So I'm going to go back to here, create panel, Pro Boolean, pick, and it did a good job there, did a good job down here, and did a good job there. Voila. So now I have all my holes in my geometry. So if I go back to the modify panel, you can see now it's set to Pro Boolean. I need to just collapse this down to an editable poly. And now I can start moving these pieces where they belong. So push this back in here. It's going to be flush, just like that. Grab this guy. Same thing, move it straight back. Oops, grabbed the wrong thing. Oh, grabbed the wrong thing again. There. Probably needs to be, because this one was at a slight angle. I'll leave it for now. I'll adjust it later if I have to. Okay, so this guy's going to get back because he's going to be the chord. I'll model him out in a little bit. Let me decrease his height. And I'll convert him here in a sec. So all these pieces, same thing. We're going to move them straight back. And now we need to model them. So let's go ahead and save what we've got so far. Save. Okay. So now if I pull up my reference image again, let's go to the big version of this. Okay, so here's my USB slots. I'm going to hit Z on the keyboard to zoom extent. I'm going to hit Alt-W to maximize. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these three right now. Grab this guy. Decrease the height. Actually, not the height, the width. Something like that, 0.5. And I'm going to definitely decrease this where it's not sticking so far out. So about there. And then I move it over. It's still probably too thick. So 0.3. Just like that. Okay. So I'm going to hold down Shift, drag it over. Click OK. Hold down Shift, drag it over. Probably should have set these as references, so that way if I needed to adjust one, they would all adjust. Oh well, you live and you learn. Okay, so those are the USB ports. Let's go ahead and adjust this guy. So this guy is modeled a little bit differently. Let's go right click, editable poly. I'll select the whole thing, scale it down just a little bit. Something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this top one here, slide it straight back. Okay, now let's get the extra little groove in there. So I'm gonna drag select over the center here. I'm gonna say connect. I'm gonna slide that over. to about there, check mark. And I'm going to go to here, drag select, connect, reset the slide, set it to 2, and pinch them together. Oops. So let's say about there, check mark. And one more. Actually, first I need to slide this over a little bit more. Do I? No, I should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to go to my selection tool, and I'm going to isolate this guy. Okay, so that way when I drag select through all this, I've got both sides. I'm going to alt click these points here. I'm going to do an inset. Set this value to 0. Tab it up just a little bit. That's fine. Check mark. I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard. And I'm going to edge mode. Select this edge. Control select the back edge and say bridge. And voila. Now this thing seems to be a little thick, so I can grab these vertices here. And zoom out. Use my scale tool and scale them down. Just like that. Probably drag these guys over a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to end isolation. Voila. There's that one. It's probably super wide, but oh well. What can you do? I'm not going to go back through and redo it all. So in this case, I can actually delete these two because it's going to just be a straight bar from here. Click OK. I can decrease the height. Put it right, looks like right in the center. Click OK. And then this last one, let's go ahead and decrease the height as well. Because I'm just going to model out the very top piece. In fact, actually, what I'm going to do is scale this down. Something like that. Okay. In fact, I'll probably pull it over a little bit more to about there. So let's go ahead and convert this one to an editable poly. Drag select through the center. I'm going to go connect. I'm going to do it 3 times, I think, because there's what? 1, 2 steps. So 1, 2. That's good. So 2 connections. Select this one and go extrude. Way too far. Set that down to 0. Tag it up. Let's say something like that. There. And I'm going to hit the plus sign. And this time I'm only going to extrude the top polygon here. Check mark. Okay. So I'm going to hold down Shift, copy this guy over. Click OK. I'm going to rotate it 90. Oops, let me turn on rotate snap. Sorry, 180 is when I'm rotating it. Pull it back. Go attach. Select this one. I can actually, to be honest, the quick way of doing this is just delete these center vertices. Go to edge mode. Select this edge, or sorry, loop mode. Glad I zoomed out. Making sure I grab everything. And glad I zoomed out to see that these two are not aligned. So let me grab these vertices. Pull them forward. Kind of being sloppy with this just because I'm trying to rush. And these are so minute and they're not even going to ever show up in my render. I'm just showing you this is how you can do it. So I'm going to go bridge. Boom. And then there's that piece for this socket. Okay. Of course, I can spend more time modeling out those, making them more perfect, but you get the idea of how to do it. So I'm going to go to this guy right here, and I'm going to convert it to an editable poly. Select this polygon here. I'm going to rotate. In fact, let's go Alt-W to see it in the side view. Let's move it straight back. So rotate was a little off. I'm going to turn off rotate snap. That's good. Bring it back a little bit more. That's probably good. Okay, so I'm going to say inset, set it to 0, bring it up. That's probably good. Actually, a little bit more. Check mark, extrude, set it to 0. Let me go 0.2. Let's go 0.3. Yeah, that's good. Check mark. I can raise this and actually rotate it. Something like that. Okay, so let's create the chord coming out. Go to create panel. We're going to go to the splines again. This time create a line and just click and draw a line. Now click and holding it down to create the arc. Something like that for now. And I can always go back through and add more segments or, sorry, vertices if I need them, but right now I don't. So this time, instead of adding an extrude, what I'm going to do is switch it to rendering, enable and render, enable and viewport. You can see here added thickness. Thickness is way too much. So right here where it says radial, bring it down to about there. And I can still readjust it by going to the vertices and positioning them. Okay. So that's the chord. Let's talk about doing the stand. Let's save this. Okay, so here's the stand. Let's try to quickly knock this out. All right, so I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to go ahead and switch my front back to wireframe. And I'm going to go to create panel, compound objects. I'm going to switch back to standard and click and create a box. So let me draw a box here. Something like that. Go to my move tool and my modify panel. Let me move it straight back. So the height is going to be probably 0.3. No, maybe 0.25. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So let's see, we got a couple of things we want to do. It's probably a little too wide, so let me decrease the width. Set the X value to 0 for the position. Yeah, that's good. All right, so let's add an edit poly modifier. Go to vertex mode. Drag select over these top vertices. I'm going to move them down a little bit. I'm going to rotate at 45. Let me Control Z that, turn on rotate snap. 45, go to polygon mode, and extrude. Extrude it up a little bit, check mark. Position this in here, rotate another 45. There we go, just like that. So I'm going to grab these vertices. I am going to move them down a little bit. So I'm looking at this right here. Go to edge mode, select these two edges. I'm going to go connect, check mark, bend it, select these, connect, check mark, and the shortcut key for connect is Control-Shift-E. There we go. So that way I don't have to keep wasting my time to come to the side panel. All right, so let's go to vertex mode, grab these bottom vertices and pull it back because it is at an angle. And it looks like it's low, probably somewhere around there. I'm going to hit G to get rid of the grid. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay, so again, rotate 45. And I'm going to go to polygon mode. Let's select this polygon here and extrude it. It's probably good. Bring it down a little bit more. Probably about there. Rotate this one, 45. Extrude. Check mark. This time I'm going to Drag this one all the way forward, a little bit past the front, like that. And, oops, switch this back to my left. It is a little bit wider. So let's go ahead and increase the scale a little bit. It's probably good. And it is thinner, because I remember looking at this one right here. It does get thinner towards the front. So let me grab these front vertices and drag them down. Voila. Okay, looking good. So let's clean up this back area here. I am going to grab these vertices, pull them forward a little bit. Go to vertex mode, go to edge mode, select these edges, go connect, check mark, drag it back. Rotate it a little bit. Okay, same thing. Control grab these, Control Shift E, drag it back, Control Shift E. Voila. And I can probably bring, oops, this guy, whoops, let me drag select over it. Just to flesh it out a little bit more. Voila. Let me go ahead and select all the polygons right now and do a clear, set them all to 1. I'm going to select this polygon, hold down Shift so it loops all the way around it. Set the 2 and turn off 1. Then I'm going to select this one, set it to 3, turn off 2. Okay. So now let's go to edge mode. I need to bevel out this front edge here. In fact, actually, now that I'm thinking I have to bevel it, let me switch this one to 2 again. Okay. Edge mode, let's select. Let me hit Z so I can zoom extent. Control Alt W. Oh, what the? Turn off target weld. Let me go to maximize viewport. Shortcut keys were not working for a sec. So let me grab these 2 edges and chamfer. Oh, let's go 0.4. 0.4. That's still too much. 0.3. There we go. And increase the amount to create a nice smooth edge. Check mark. Okay, so looking at this, I'm going to have to create a nice little chamfer all the way around. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to click this edge here and click Alt L, which is loop, shortcut key for loop right here. And it's not grabbing, let me click this one over here, Alt L. Again, I'm control clicking when I'm grabbing more than I want, or adding to my selection. Okay, so that did a good job of selecting everything except for these front ones. So to grab those, I'm going to go to my Alt W, there it goes, side view. Go to this tool here, so it's only selecting what's going to be inside my selection. Hold down Control, select the top and bottom. There we go. Now I'm going to add a chamfer. Set the amount to 0.01. It's probably even too much. Let's try 0.05. Check mark. All right. Oops, I'm going to undo that. Control Z. Control Z. Let's go chamfer. I need to set this down to 1. Set this 0.005. Okay. That's looking good. So now we need to create the hole that's in the back. Easy, just like what we did before, what we did with the front monitor. And man, I almost forgot. The base here is wider than the top. It's like a pyramid. So let me go to my modify panel, select these vertices down here, use scale tool, Just bring them out a little bit wider. There we go. Wow, I almost forgot about that, but luckily we can fix it. All right, what is this going on? Huh. Create some interesting look here, but that's okay. No harm, no foul. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to the modify panel, or sorry, the create panel, standard, create a cylinder. Let's do this in the front viewport. Click and drag. It's going to be a little bit bigger than the power. Let me go ahead and set the X to 0. Drag it up a little bit. Bring it straight back. There we go. So we're going to cut this hole out. I'm going to go back to my stand, go to the modify panel, or sorry, the create panel. We're going to use the compound objects again, Pro Boolean, pick, boom. There's the hole, turn it off, convert it to an editable poly, go to edge mode. It looks like that's the only edge selected. That's good. So let's do chamfer. Set the value to 0. Dial it up just a little bit. Check mark. Okay, so now that we have that in place, you can actually play with your line a little bit. Bring this down, something like that. You can actually grab these points, move them down. I really don't want to mess too much with it until I get the desk involved. So let's go ahead. I think that's pretty much it. Let's drag select over everything. Let me turn off vertex mode, select everything, right click, unhide all. I'm going to control click the glass piece that we hid before. There we go. And I'm going to move everything up. Alt W. Set this right on the desk. Boom. All right, Alt W. Let's move it back a little bit. Probably do about there. And we can bring down, play with this now. And that would go all the way down to whatever power supply that you have. I'm going to actually right click and just say smooth for the joints. Select over a bunch of them. Right click, smooth. Why isn't that working? There we go, smooth. Yeah, that cleans that up a lot. All right, there we have it. I can pull this back. It's going to be right on the edge. And of course, I can play with how it's adapting. Okay, let's texture this. I'm going to maximize this window. I'm going to turn off vertex, and let's start with the main body of the iMac. In fact, actually, we need to name this iMac stand. And probably should rename this iMac cord. iMac logo 1. Probably that could have been logo 2, but oh well. Copy this, paste it to this one down here. Logo 2. Okay. So let's grab this. Let's go to the material editor. Now remember when we were playing with the multi-sub-object option under Polygon mode, or material ID, sorry, material ID option. What that gave us the ability is, let's just jump over here. And let me turn this off actually right now. Let's go down to a new material. Oops, I had a green one that was set. Let me just reset this one. Okay, so let's go to this one. And we're going to call this iMac. And I'm going to click on the word standard. And this allows me to grab other types of materials. A morpher material, ray tracing material, stuff that we've already kind of played with, like ray tracing. What I want to do is switch this to multi-sub-object. And what that is I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to say keep old material, that's fine. It's going to give me a list of each one of these little balls that could be on the same material. So right now I have a number of 10. I only need to set this to what, 3, I think? And click OK. All right, so now that I have this applied, what I could do is I have the iMac standard. In fact, let's call this iMac standard. And then I don't know what each one, but we need to go none. And it's the standard material we're using, so click OK. And hit the up arrow and go to the next one, standard. Click OK. Hit the up arrow. All right. The object, have I applied it? Let me just make sure. Apply to selection. Now let's see what happens when I change, let's say, I think it was what, 2 or 3 was black. And let me click on the glass right now, right click and say hide selection. Well, we didn't really see anything change. Let me switch this to black, because maybe I only had 2 on here. It is applied. Let me go here, go into polygon mode, select this, and this has a material ID set to 1. It reset all the material IDs. Interesting. That's okay. So we'll go ahead and reset them back to something else. So I'm going to set this one to 3. I'm going to change it to blue, because eventually we're just going to apply a texture to that. So now that's blue, and we'll grab these. Let me just try shift. Nope, that's not going to work. Make sure I'm on select tool, turn on ignore back facing, click and drag. Why is that not grabbing these extra? Oh, because I have this on. There we go. Okay, so now that we have all those selected, I can switch this to, let's say, number 2. 2. All right, so now that I have the 3 distinct materials applied, I can come into these holes, because they definitely they were like practically black, so I just go through and grab all the back sides and go grow. I'm going to set this material ID to 2. Same thing with these 2. Grow. Material ID to 2. Okay. That's set. Of course, this works like any other material. I can go inside of it, and now I can go to diffuse and apply a texture to the screen. I'm not going to do that right now. So that's pretty much done. Let me go ahead and just play with the actual iMac. Let's bring up the shine to it. So I'm going to say iMac metal underscore for this one. And I'm going to apply this same material to the stand. All right. And the next one over could be logo. Drag and drop this to the logos. Change it to black with a high shine. Okay. Go back to this one, the iMac. Is there anything else I need to adjust? That's pretty much it. It's a gray material that's really shiny. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and right click and say unhide all. Click on the glass. We'll create this iMac glass and apply it. Set it to black. Set the alpha way down. A little bit of shine, even though these monitors are super reflective. Let's go to maps. I'm not going to do refraction this time. I'm just going to do reflection. And apply reflection. Let's see, ray trace. Go back up. And I'm going to set this down to, let's say, 50. Or even 40. I'll probably adjust that as I go along. So there we have it. There's the iMac. All right, so go ahead and join me. Oh, the chord. I guess I can come in here and add another material. Call this iMac chord. Drag and drop it. And make sure it applied. And this one, it's pretty much gray too. I'll go a little bit lighter gray and very dull shine to it. And let's say, so we have the stand. Oh yeah, last but not least, these little pieces in here, they're white. So iMac pieces. Select. Apply to selection. And let's just make it white. Just like that. Okay. Oops, missed one. Turn off edge faces. This needs to be this. There we go. All right, so go ahead and join me for part 4 of this tutorial, and we're going to model out a few more things on the desk, probably the keyboard and mouse, and then we'll start talking about rendering, and then the walls, and then probably a lamp, and then we'll go from there.